Tonight is a very special edition of College Football Thursday as we are going to preview the six biggest games, the six biggest bowl games still to come. They are the six most anticipated bowl games of the entire bowl season. Fittingly named the New Year's Six. Hello, friends, and welcome to this very special edition of Strictly Sports College Football Thursday. I am your host, Anthony Floyo, joined as always by good old MF Michael Fletcher and Michael Bullock. What a show we have on tap tonight. There's no power poll here. We can just talk games here tonight. We don't have to worry about power polls or disagreements or any of that nonsense. It's all about who we think will come out on top in these six humongous games. Normally, I like to go in order. You know me, I like to go in chronological order. But I'm sure MF and Bullock will agree with me on this when I say, I think with all due respect, I think we should save the college football playoff for the double main event. That's all I can say on that. I'm sure MF and Bullock will back me on that. So that's what we'll do. We'll talk about the other four New Year's Six bowl games first, in that order, but then the final two, and fittingly so, should be the college football playoff semifinal matchups. That's your double main event this evening. So with all that being said, gentlemen, let's dive right on in to our first New Year's Six bowl game, which will take place on Saturday at high noon from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. It is the Peach Bowl. The Florida Gators squaring off against the Michigan Wolverines. ESPN will have this game. We've got Bob Wischusen, Brock Huard, and Allison Williams on the call. Michigan opening up as a 6-point favorite across the board. So here you go. This will be the team's third matchup in 4 years. Michigan won the two previous matchups against the Gators under fourth-year coach Jim Harbaugh. The Wolverines are looking to win their first New Year's Day Six Bowl under Harbaugh, and at the same time erase the sting of a 62-39 loss to Ohio State in the regular season finale. Star defensive end Rashawn Gary will not play in the bowl game. Florida is looking to hit double-digit wins in Dan Mullen's first season, which would be a capper to one of the best turnarounds in the SEC this season. The Gators finished the year on a 3-game win streak. The quarterback matchup between Felipe Franks and Shea Patterson should be fun. This should be a hard-fought Big Ten SEC matchup. 3 keys for Michigan and Florida. Pass defense. Michigan and Florida both have top 10 pass defenses, but both units give up more than 11 yards per completion. That suggests that while Franks and Patterson might struggle a bit with their percentage, both quarterbacks will hit a few big plays in the passing game that can turn the momentum if it's tight. Look for the Gators to use crossing routes early, which were the Wolverines' undoing against Ohio State. Michigan will test the back end with a few deep shots to Nico Collins and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Running game, key number 2. Florida will hammer away with the running back tag team of LaMichael Papirine and Jordan Scarlett. Both running backs average 5.9 yards a carry and will attack a defense led by All-American linebacker Devin Bush, a Florida native. Michigan allowed just 3.4 yards of rush attempt this season. Final key, second half scoring. In the last 2 meetings, Michigan has outscored Florida 44-0 in the second half. That led to a 33-17 win in the season opener in 2017 and a 44-7 victory in the 2016 Citrus Bowl. Mullen, however, was not the coach in those games. He led Mississippi State to a 52-14 victory against Michigan in the 2011 Gator Bowl. The Michigan-Florida stat that matters. It's a big game, so watch how Michigan runs the football. The Wolverines are 13-0 when Karan Higdon rushes for 100 yards or more the last 3 seasons. The Wolverines have lost 13 games under Harbaugh, and in 12 of those games, they averaged fewer than 3 yards a carry. Overall prediction, there is some fatigue on both sides about the matchup, but that will go out the door when the game starts. It'll be a fast track, and Florida will attack in the passing game early, knowing Mullen is a disciple of Urban Meyer. Look for Michigan to open the offense up early, take a few deep shots. The Wolverines are the better team, but Harbaugh must match Mullen's aggressiveness in the offensive game plan. This will be tight. At the end, I'm going with the Michigan Wolverines to win the Peach Bowl 27-21 over the Florida Gators. Nothing more to say. Good old MF Michael Fletcher, come on in. We kick it off with the Peach Bowl. Your Michigan Wolverines, Florida Gators. Two legendary programs, a beautiful venue in Atlanta. What a way to start the New Year's Six.
It is going to be a great way to start the New Year's Six, and this is a great battle. I know a lot of people were wondering, Michigan versus Florida. Michigan, a 2-loss team, absolutely got shellacked by Ohio State in the last game of the year, the game, as many people know it. And then, of course, Florida. Where do they stand? Like Anthony said, this is a very good team, very solid performance. Are they really going to be a big thorn, or are they really going to make a big move here? I think Michigan's going to do it. Shea Patterson wants to come back, looking a little bit embarrassed after that game against Ohio State. And I truly believe that he will have a good game. Florida has flown under the radar most of the year. I don't think that they're going to make much of a threat for Michigan, even though I think Michigan is a very elite team. They pushed Notre Dame to the brink earlier in the season. Actually, as a matter of fact, the first game of the season, and they really pushed them to the limit. But then the Big Ten was really Michigan's coming out, getting revenge on Wisconsin, getting revenge on Penn State, getting revenge on Michigan State. The only team they were unable to get an upend was Ohio State. And really, at the end of the day, I think Michigan's just a better, more complete team. I got the Michigan Wolverines winning the Peach Bowl as well. 28-24 is my final score. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yes, and like you said, guys. I mean, where are these teams? Where are they at going into this first game of the New Year's Six? I mean, where did Michigan stand? I mean, basically after getting shellacked in that final game of the year, of course, the game against Ohio State, and where they gave up probably the most points in the school's history. And Florida, I mean, not many people expected a lot from Florida this year, but they came out really well this season. They got this opportunity. Now they're going to be playing in a New Year's Six bowl. But of course, when it comes to Michigan, this will be the second time in 3 years they're playing in a New Year's Six bowl. So the thing is, I mean, excuse me. I mean, I just think Michigan's the better team, especially defensively. But I do think Florida will give them a little bit of a run here. But to me, in the end, Michigan's just the better team. So yeah, I'm gonna say. I think that score is right. 20-24 is going to be my final score. So, there's nothing more for me to add. So let's move on to the second of our New Year's Six bowl games.
And which is not the college football playoff, because, we're going to say that for the double main event. So we're just going to go into the next non-college football playoff bowl of the New Year's, which will be on New Year's Day at 1 o'clock Eastern time. From the newly named State Farm Stadium, formerly University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. We got the number 8 UCF Knights squaring off against the number 11 LSU Tigers. By the way, Michigan number 7, Florida number 10, if you're wondering. But it's number 8 UCF, number 11 LSU. It'll be Steve Levy, Brian Greasy, and Todd McShay on the call. LSU opening up as a 7.5-point favorite. So good old MF Michael Fletcher right on cue. It's a power here. We know what this is. We've seen this many of times before. This is basically a traditional SEC power and two-time defending American Athletic Conference champion, the little engine that could, if you will. So who gets the edge in this David versus Goliath type matchup?
Normally we would say that Goliath would probably be the favorite in this one. But the thing is that this is not your typical David. I think we all can say it. Last year, UCF, a lot of people thought Auburn was going to win that game. I thought Auburn was going to win that game. I know Anthony disagreed, and he went with UCF. He went with that little engine, and they dominated. They won the game. They deserved to win that game a year ago. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, come on, that's beginner's luck, man. They got, they got lucky. That was all this. They're not going to make a big run like that again. In no way, no how. They lost their head coach. He went to Nebraska. This team's not going to be the same again." They're undefeated, guys. And they're making yet another run at another undefeated season. And all that's standing in their way is LSU now. And LSU, not as good as as some of the other Power 5 conference teams that are going to go at it with UCF. So going back to Glendale, Arizona, to the place where the infamous, and I do mean infamous, upset, the original David versus Goliath showdown went down, when it was Boise State, that little college, went up against the juggernaut Oklahoma. And yes, Dede Woodson and Kevin Woodson, cover your ears right now. 3 little words: Statue of Liberty. Do we all remember that game? Do we all remember that moment? Do we all remember how that ended? Boise State stunned. Oklahoma stuns the college football world. And Boise State literally overnight becomes the darlings of college football. Well, get ready for another Cinderella story coming out of Glendale, Arizona, ladies and gentlemen. And it's because UCF, the University of Central Florida, is going to go undefeated 2 years in a row. I'm calling for the upset. I'm calling for Central Florida to win the Fiesta Bowl over LSU. My final score, 31-20. Nothing more to say. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, going into this, I mean, we all know what happened with UCF last season. They went undefeated, and yes, I made that mistake of going against UCF in their bowl game last season. I mean, they made me look like a fool for picking against them. So, and then many people thought, "Oh, this was just beginner's luck. There's no way they could do that again." Well, all they did was have another undefeated season undefeated regular season, but the undefeated season overall could be complete if they beat LSU. I mean, LSU is definitely going to give this team some fits. So, yeah, I mean, I know I made the mistake last year of going against UCF. To me, I'm not going to make that same mistake again. I'm going with UCF to win this one. I'm going to say I'm going to go with the same score, 20-24. UCF will beat LSU. So all I got to say, Florio, you're going with the Cinderella Darlings again? Or are you going to go have a change of heart this time around?
Oh, this is so tough. I mean, UCF takes its FBS best 25-game win streak into this matchup. Here's what worries me. The Knights will not have star quarterback Mackenzie Milton, but first-year coach Josh Heupel has the Group of 5 school on the brink of a second straight undefeated season. Would UCF claim another national championship with a victory against the Tigers? LSU enters the game after an up-and-down season that featured matchups against 7 opponents that were ranked at the time. Tigers finished 4-3 in those games, and Ed Orgeron is off the hot seat. Star cornerback Greedy Williams won't play in the bowl game, but the Tigers have more than enough talent to win in Tempe. Will the Knights cash in on the disrespect card, or will LSU end the nation's longest winning streak? 3 keys for this game. First, Darryl Mack Jr. Milton is out, but Mack stepped in with 6 total touchdowns and a 4-1 victory against Memphis in the AAC. Mack must be a threat in the running game against a Tiger defense that features All-American linebacker Devin White and allowed just 3.8 yards a carry this year. UCF averaged 5.9 yards a carry in the regular season. Key number 2, UCF turnovers. The Knights ranked 3rd in the FBS with a plus 14 turnover margin. UCF had 13 interceptions and 13 fumble recoveries this season. It's an opportunistic defense. LSU quarterback Joe Burrow threw just 4 interceptions all year, and he finished the year hot with a 68.9 completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, and no interceptions in the Tigers' last 3 games. Key number 3, LSU engagement. The Tigers ended the season with a 74-72 7 overtime loss against Texas A&M. They will be up against a UCF team that will look to walk the walk again. Keep an eye on the first half. Auburn led UCF 3-0 after 1 quarter in last year's Peach Bowl, and the Knights took advantage by building a 13-6 lead at halftime. LSU, meanwhile, outscored opponents 97-22 in the first quarter this season. Can the Tigers get out in front early? The stat that matters: which running back gets out to a good start? UCF's Greg McCray, 1,101 yards, 9 TDs, averaged 9 yards a carry for the Knights, and he will test the middle of LSU's defense with his speed. Nick Rosette, 922 yards and 14 TDs, started the season with a pair of 100-yard games before having modest success the rest of the year. The running game will make a huge difference in a game where the quarterbacks will pick their spots in the downfield passing game. Prediction: that engagement will be key, especially early. The Tigers have more talent, and they will have film on Mack, who has 2 starts this season. LSU does not want to be in the same spot Auburn was in last year. And this is a game where Coach Orgeron can turn Joe Burrow loose in preparation for next season. LSU gets all they can handle, but I'm sorry, gentlemen. I think they snapped the Knights' streak with a late fourth quarter touchdown to seal the victory. It's Mackenzie Milton. But then again, I thought the same thing against Memphis, and look what happened. They beat Memphis. But this is LSU. This is not Memphis. So, with all due respect to UCF, I would love to see them do it again, but I just got this feeling about LSU. I'm gonna take a chance here, and I'm gonna go with LSU to win this one, 31-24. Make no mistake about it. It's gonna be a hell of a game. I can't wait to see it. So, nothing more to say on that. Let's move on to the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. Oh, yeah. The legendary Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. The number 9 Washington Huskies. The number 6 Ohio State Buckeyes. And on the call for this one, you got Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, Maria Taylor, and Tom Rinaldi. That's how big this is. Ohio State opening up as a 6.5 to 7-point favorite. Michael Bullock, we started off with you. Washington, Ohio State, Urban Meyer's final game as Ohio State head coach before he gives the keys to the car to Ryan Day. Can Ohio State send Urban Meyer out a winner in the granddaddy of them all?
Now, this, guys, to me, is one of my favorite bowl games of them all. We can all agree on it. The granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. You can think of so many great games in the history of this great bowl game. Michigan's been down this road. USC. So many great teams that played in this the granddaddy of them all, and of course, whenever I think of the Rose Bowl, I always think of one of the great announcers in college football history, and I think you know who I'm talking about, Florio.
Whoa, Nelly.
Keith
You're
Jackson.
you're damn right. I mean, when I think of the Rose Bowl, I think of the late great Keith Jackson. He's called so many great games at the granddaddy of them all. But the last one I could ever remember was, of course, that national championship game with Texas and USC. I mean, that's the one I'll definitely remember. And then, of course, you also got another great announcer, Brent Musburger, who's called some Rose Bowl games as well. So, but yeah, getting back to this is going to be a fun game. I mean, whenever you think of the Rose Bowl, you got a good Pac-12 and Big Ten showdown, and this one here is going to be no different. I mean, you got two really good quarterbacks leading the way with Jake Browning for Washington and Dwayne Haskins for Ohio State. And the running game is obviously there as well. And where are both of these teams? I mean, Ohio State, I mean, not many teams were giving Ohio State a chance to make the college football playoff, but wins over Michigan and then in a win in the Big Ten title game really put them in this spot. And of course, Washington, with the season they had, I mean, this, to me, with both of these offenses, I think this could have the recipe for a high-scoring game. We could see that. So, man, this is a tough one for me to call. But in the end, I think it's going to be Ohio State who walks out of here winning the granddaddy of them all, sending Urban Meyer out a winner in his final game as a college coach. So my final score, Ohio State 38 and Washington 34. So nothing more to say. Florio, I give it to you.
Oh, man. Ohio State fell short of the college football playoff, but still capped off its third Big Ten championship season under Urban Meyer, who started the year on a 3-game suspension. New coach Ryan Day will take over after this game. The Buckeyes are led by Heisman Trophy finalist Dwayne Haskins, who enjoyed a record-setting season at quarterback with 4,580 yards passing and 47 touchdowns. The Buckeyes ranked number 8 in the FBS with 43.5 points a game. Washington won its second Pac-12 championship under Chris Peterson, and the Huskies are led on offense by 4-year starter Jake Browning, and the school's all-time leading rusher in Myles Gaskin. Washington ranks 5th in the FBS in scoring defense, 15.5. 3 keys for this one. Key number 1 is this Dwayne Haskins send-off. There's been a lot of speculation Haskins might turn pro after this game. A chance to watch his mastery in spreading the ball out to Ohio State's receivers Paris Campbell, KJ Hill, Terry McLaurin, and Johnny Dixon all had more than 600 receiving yards this season. Washington allowed just 9 passing touchdowns this season, tied for 4th fewest in the country. Brian Murphy and Taylor Rapp are part of a talented secondary, and stud linebacker Ben Burr-Kirven had 2 interceptions and 6 pass breakups. Key number 2, Washington quarterback Jake Browning. The 4-year starter has had an up-and-down 4 years with the Huskies, and he never recaptured the form that led the team to the college football playoff in 2016. Browning had just 1 300-yard game and 4 games without an interception in 2018. Warren Moon, Billy Joe Hobart, Mark Brunell, and Marcus Tuiasosopo are the Huskies quarterbacks who have been named Rose Bowl MVP in the last 30 years. A win here would put Browning in that class. The third and final key, the Washington tackles versus the Ohio State defensive ends. Washington tackle Trey Adams, a potential first-round pick, was healthy at the end of the season. Team with Caleb McGarry, the Huskies have 2 experienced seniors, and Gaskin turned it on with 524 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns, and the Huskies 4 wins. Ohio State counters with defensive ends Chase Young and Draymond Jones, who had 8.5 sacks apiece and improved against the run. The stat that matters, if Washington wants to slow down Haskins, the Huskies need to get off the field on 3rd down. The Buckeyes ranked number 10 in the FBS with a 48.2 conversion rate on that situation. Haskins has a 163.4 passer rating on third down this season. The Huskies ranked number 65 on third down defense. Prediction? It's tough because both coaches excel in big games. Ohio State will come out emotional. Dwayne Haskins will come out firing. And you can expect a few trick plays from Coach Peterson as usual. Washington will make this a 4-quarter game. It's just tough not to go with Meyer in this situation, given the significance of the game and the passing of the torch to coaching waiting Ryan Day. Ohio State will win the Rose Bowl game. Final score, 38-28, Ohio State over Washington. Nothing more to say. It's now time to bring in our Port Authority on the Rose Bowl. I mean, here's a guy who we all know how sentimental he is when it comes to this game. So it's only fitting we end it here. So MF, Rose Bowl, man, your game. It's all yours.
It is the traditional battle every year, the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten. It's only fitting that this is the game. The Pac-12 champions, the Washington Huskies, and a lot of people didn't think they were going to be there at the end. They are. Welcome to the Rose Bowl. They're going up against Big Ten champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Many people believe that the Buckeyes should be in the college football playoff. Debate that should definitely be raging on for years to come. I know Oklahoma fans doesn't want to hear that because they're in. Ohio State fans are probably griping still to this day saying we deserve the spot. Well, let the debate continue or rage on until maybe the day that we have 8 teams in the college football playoff. We'll see. But one thing's for sure, gentlemen, this is going to be a great matchup. I mean, this is the best of the best. And to have the season that they had, no slouches are needed. You just have to enjoy the game, enjoy the ride, and this one's going to be enjoyable to watch. At the end of the day, I do believe it will be Ohio State winning it. They just look like the complete team. Especially the last 2 games that they had against Northwestern in the Big Ten Championship and especially against Michigan, they looked amazing. No arguments on this battle. The winners of the Rose Bowl game, the Ohio State Buckeyes, Anthony Florio. Let's move on to the next New Year's 6 game.
And it's our final one before we get to the double main event. It is the Sugar Bowl. Sugar Bowl from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. Of course, on ESPN, obviously. By the way, the Rose Bowl game will be starting at 5 o'clock on Monday. This game will be kicking off at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. It will be the number 15 Texas Longhorns squaring off against the number 5 Maiden Georgia Bulldogs. We got Sean McDonough, Todd Blackledge, and Holly Rowe on the call for this one. Georgia opening up as 13 to 14-point favorites. Nothing more to say. Georgia missed out on the college football playoff after a loss to Alabama in the SEC championship. But the Bulldogs can use this bowl as a building block heading into Coach Kirby Smart's 4th season. Quarterback Jake Fromm leads a balanced offense that averaged 39.2 points a game, and Thorpe Award winner DeAndre Baker leads a defense that allowed 18.5 points a game. Texas lost the Big 12 championship to playoff-bound Oklahoma, but the Longhorns are back in a big-time bowl game in their coach Tom Herman's 2nd season. Texas had a 4-2 record against ranked opponents this season, and this would be a chance for quarterback Sam Ehlinger to put a topper on a successful season. The Longhorns averaged 31.3 points a game and allowed 26.2 points a game. 3 keys to this one. Number 1, Texas wide receivers versus the Georgia cornerbacks. This is worth the price of admission alone. Little Jordan Humphrey, 1,109 yards and 9 touchdowns, and Colin Johnson, 945 yards, 7 touchdowns, are big-bodied receivers who pose a challenge for Georgia's secondary led by Baker. The Bulldogs allowed just 180.5 passing yards a game this season, Sam Ehlinger thrives on the big play, but this is the best secondary he has faced all season. Number 2, the Longhorns' run defense. Texas improved against the run this season, allowing 151.2 yards a game along with 3.88 yards per attempt. Georgia, however, has 5 players with at least 40 carries who average 6 yards per attempt this season, including James Cook, 6.8, Swift, 6.7, Elijah Holyfield, 6.5, Justin Fields, 6.3, and Brian Herrien, 6. That takes the pressure off Fromm. And number 3, Justin Fields. Speaking of Fields, how will the Bulldogs involve the freshman quarterback in a game where he could be useful with some big plays? Georgia is not in the playoff, and it's on Coach Smart to have this team prepared. That can work both ways. Georgia might experiment a little more on offense against a defense that gave up more than 30 points in 6 games this season. The stat that matters, keep an eye on Fromm and Ehlinger with their completion percentages and whether that magic number is at 65%. Georgia is 10-0 when Fromm hits that number, and Ehlinger was 7-1, with a lone loss coming in the last minute to West Virginia. Efficiency in the passing game will be the difference in this one. Prediction: Texas will be fired up early. The Longhorns have not been to a bowl of this scope since the 2009 BCS championship game. Ehlinger will hit a few big passes early, and the Longhorns might even lead at halftime. Georgia, however, will adjust and continue to pound with that ground game. Texas won't be able to stop it in the fourth quarter. That's when Fromm will hit a couple game-changing throws. Georgia gets the big win in the Big Easy. So with all that being said, Georgia, the maiden Georgia Bulldogs, I believe will win the Sugar Bowl over the Texas Longhorns by a final score of 38-24. Nothing more to say on this. It's good old MF Michael Fletcher now up. MF, we all know how high you've been on Texas all season. Can they? And you know they pulled some big upsets in.
They did beat Oklahoma, and they also won the national championship, beating USC, and where USC was basically the greatest team ever. Could they do it again, Anthony? Absolutely, no doubt about it. I think they could definitely pull the upset. Do I think they're gonna do it? Unfortunately, no. I don't have Texas in this game. Look, Georgia is unbelievable. They're powerful. They're strong. They're dominating. They should have beat Alabama. I'm sorry. They should have won that game. They had it in the national championship game a year ago. They had them in the SEC championship game. They had Alabama. They had Alabama's number. They had them on the ropes. They should have gone for the knockout punch. They could have gone for the knockout punch. But they let Jalen Hurts get back in the game, and he looked like the Jalen Hurts of old. And that was the undoing of Georgia in that game. So, no, absolutely. They had every right to win that game. And who knows? We probably would have been talking about them playing for the playing for the college football playoff national championship, but instead we're not. And it is what it is. The consolation prize is, yes, they do get a date and they do get to play in the New Year's Six. And I truly believe that once it's all said and done, they will get the job done. I do have Georgia winning this game. So, Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, this is I think this is definitely going to be another good game here. I mean, yeah, I mean, Texas, look at what they've done. I mean, they beat Oklahoma, and in order, of course, winning that Big 12 championship just to get here to the New Year's Six. But they're going to be going up against a Georgia team that's pretty much bitter after, of course, losing that national championship game earlier this year to Alabama. I mean, many people thought they should have won that game. So Georgia's got a lot to prove in this game. So I do agree. I got Georgia winning this one as well. I'm going to say 31-24. Georgia just overtakes Texas. So there's really nothing more that needs to be said. So let's move on to our next New Year's Six game.
Gentlemen, are you ready? It's time. The double main event that we have been anxiously awaiting. Wait no longer. The college football playoff semi-final matchups. First up, Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock on ESPN from Jerry World, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. The number 3 Notre Dame Fighting Irish squaring off against the number 2 Clemson Tigers. Sean McDonough, Todd Blackledge, Tom Rinaldi, and Holly Rowe will be working this game. Clemson, of course, they're huge favorites. 12.5 to 14-point favorites for the Clemson Tigers. Nothing more to say here. It's good old MF Michael Fletcher who gets to start it off. MF, I know over the last few years, you've been very high on Clemson. You've been very high on this team for the last, I want to say, 4 or 5 years now. Notre Dame came out of nowhere, shocked the world. You know, they went undefeated, won games that we did not think they could do, but they did. So the question is, Clemson, can they get back to the title game yet again? Or can Notre Dame do the impossible?
This one's a dangerous game. And for even an expert like myself, this is a dangerous game to pick because you cannot underestimate the Fighting Irish. Absolutely not. Their season's been one for the ages. It goes down in Notre Dame lore, as always. They just know how to play the game right. They do it the right way. They do it the honorable way. And they've done a tremendous job all year long. I think the big factor, and this is a big factor, is what are they going to do defensively? Can they stop the attack of Clemson? Even though Clemson has had some, they had some near scares all year long, but with Notre Dame, a lot of people are like, well, they've never really been tested. Yes, granted, they haven't. The one big test they had was against Michigan, pushed them to the limits. Notre Dame, some way, somehow got by. Then they had a couple of games where they easily could have lost, Anthony, if you remember, early in the year. There was a couple of near scares for Notre Dame where they almost let a not-so-good team upend them. So, I mean, it goes both ways. Both teams are really good, peaking at the right time, and you're playing for the national championship. The winner goes to Levi Stadium in Santa Clara on the Monday night, January 7, to play for the national title. When it's all said and done, I'm sorry, Anthony, Notre Dame's run ends here. I got Clemson winning the game, very close, but it's going to be very entertaining. 27-23, Clemson upends Notre Dame. They go to the national championship game. They go to Santa Clara. And unfortunately for Notre Dame, a miracle run, a great season comes to an end. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, this is going to be a fun game here. I mean, two undefeated teams. I mean, going at it in Jerry's world. I mean, it'll be the the Clemson Tigers' first trip to the Cotton Bowl since 1940, and Fighting Irish are returning to college football's fourth oldest bowl for the first time since 1994. So both these teams are definitely going to be itching to do something good in this game. I mean, it will be even better if the Tigers can figure out a way to accomplish what no other team has been able to do this season, namely prevail against Notre Dame in a close game. The Fighting Irish won 6 games by 10 points or less. Clemson, on the other hand, won its 13 games by an average margin of nearly 32 points, as making its 4th consecutive appearance in the college football playoff. The Tigers have gone 3-2 in the playoff, including a victory against Alabama in the 2016 title game. But the Crimson Tide turned the tables on Clemson last year, throttling the Tigers in a 24-6 win in the Sugar Bowl before going on to win the national championship. Notre Dame is making its first appearance in the college football playoff. Clemson All-America defensive end Colin Farrell says the Tigers' star-studded defense, which ranks among the top 5 nationally in several defensive categories, including yards allowed per play, tackles for loss, and sacks, will face its top challenge to date. Clemson the defense could be shorthanded. Standout tackle Dexter Lawrence was among 3 players suspended earlier this week after testing positive for a silver, Sweeney said, a banned substance, Osterine. A second test potentially could clear Lawrence, as well as tight end Braden Galloway and offensive lineman Zach Gillia. Notre Dame may need more help than one suspended starter for Clemson. The Tigers boast one of the top offenses in the nation as well, ranking 5th in scoring offense at 45 points a game. A switch to freshman quarterback Trevor Lawrence in the season's 5th game proved to be the right move, and the rookie responded with more than 2,600 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, and only 4 picks. The 6'6" Lawrence is flanked by one of the nation's top running backs and sophomore Travis Etienne, who averages 8.3 yards per carry and a deep and talented receiving core. So Notre Dame's in-season switch to quarterback Ian Book also paid off. Book has guided the Irish to perfection while throwing for 22 touchdowns and only 6 picks. Running back Dexter Williams is on the cusp of 1,000 yards despite only playing 8 games. So, yeah, this is going to be a really good one. So, this is going to be a tough one. I mean, this is a game that could go either way. So, in the end, sorry, Florio, I got to go with Fletch here. I got to go with the Clemson Tigers here. I think they're going to end Notre Dame's magical run. Notre Dame will make it close to the very end. Notre Dame will make it close to the very end, but in the end, I just think Clemson has too much. I just think they are a better team than Notre Dame. So, would it surprise me if Notre Dame won? No, it wouldn't. So, to me, I'm going with the Clemson Tigers. I'm going to go 35-31. Clemson will win and move on to the national championship game. Florio, can your Notre Dame Fighting Irish pull it off, or do Clemson find its way back to the national championship game?
I would love to go against both you guys. I really would. But I don't think I can. But I'll get to that in a minute. But let's get into this. Clemson returns to the playoff for the 4th consecutive year. Tigers are one of 2 teams who ranked in the top 5 in scoring offense at 45.4 points a game and scoring defense at 14.7 points a game. The other team, number 1 Alabama, of course. Coach Dabo Swinney brings the same loaded team to Jerry World. Notre Dame enjoyed its 2nd unbeaten regular season under their coach Brian Kelly, and this team will have a chance to take the playoff stage for the first time. The Irish have a top 10 scoring defense at 17.3, but the offense ranked 34th in scoring offense at 33.8. 3 keys. First key, the Notre Dame ground game. Clemson led the nation by allowing just 2.4 rushing yards per attempt. Will the Irish be able to take some heat off quarterback Ian Book by establishing the running game with Williams, who averaged 6.6 yards a carry in the regular season? Williams averaged more than 10 yards a carry in victories against Virginia Tech and Florida State. That's tape the Tigers are sure to break down. Key number 2, Clemson's pass offense. The Irish allowed just 7 passing touchdowns this season, tied for the second best mark in the FBS. Notre Dame also has 12 interceptions on the season. It'll be interesting to see how Clemson tests that early with Trevor Lawrence, who typically settles in by the second quarter. Third and final key, the defensive lines. This game features 2 outstanding defensive lines. Clemson has 6 different players with 3 sacks or more, including defensive end Clelin Ferrell, who Bullock talked about, who had 10.5 sacks. The Irish are much improved up front around Jerry Tillery, 7 sacks. Both units can dominate a game. The stat that matters, the fourth quarter, could be interesting if it's tight. Trevor Lawrence has a 54.8 completion percentage with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the final quarter of the season. Ian Book, however, has an 83.3 completion percentage with 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter. If it's still tight late, the Irish might have the advantage. Prediction? Well, I made it this far without mentioning Travis Etienne, the Clemson star running back who rushed for 1,464 yards and 21 touchdowns this season. He's a closer in the red zone and had 4 touchdown runs of 40 yards or more this season. When it was tight against Syracuse, Etienne scored 2 fourth quarter touchdowns. I think this game could come down to the close, and a long strike by Etienne could make the difference. Notre Dame has a chance in this game, but they will have to find a way to contain the Tigers' star running back. As much as I'm going to pray for Notre Dame to do the impossible, if they were to go all the way, this would be like it would be like the old Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. We all remember that. You could say this is like their match. This is like the Daniel Bryan against Triple H matchup. And then if they get to the title game, whether it's Oklahoma or Bama, that'll be like that triple threat against Orton and Batista. If Notre Dame were to win this thing, they were to go all the way, it would be like the Miracle on Bourbon Street, even though it would be in Santa Clara. But as much as I want to see it happen and as much as I'm praying for it to happen, I hate to do it, but I have no choice. I have to go against my own team. It breaks my heart to do it, but these guys are right. It's Clemson. Status quo, best for business is going to win out yet again. So I'm going to go with Clemson. Breaks my heart to do it, but Clemson defeats Notre Dame 31-23. There, I said it. And now, gentlemen, the final game of the night and the bowl game that's near and dear to my heart. Like the Rose Bowl is to MF, this is the one that's near and dear to me. The Capital One Orange Bowl. The second half of the college football playoff doubleheader, 8 o'clock prime time. Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, Maria Taylor, Laura Rutledge will be joining in on the fun. And Alabama opening up as 14 to 15 point favorites. Michael Bullock, we started with you. The number 4 Oklahoma Sooners, the number 1 Alabama Crimson Tide. Will it be next victim once again for Alabama? Or will it be Boomer Sooner for Dede and Kevin Woodson and good old JR?
Boy, this is going to be, this is a basic case of, the Alabama defense going up against the high-powered Oklahoma offense. You got 2 guys at quarterback who were Heisman Trophy. You got 2 quarterbacks and Tua Tagovailoa, who I do expect to play in this game. And you got the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Kyler Murray, with the over 4,000 yards passing, 40 touchdowns, and 7 picks. And then the running game with Brooks for Oklahoma with over 1,000 yards running. And both have really good receivers. But I think it's going to be. Here's the thing. What I think could happen. If Alabama's defense can keep Oklahoma's offense in check, they should have no problem. But if this becomes a high scoring affair, I think this may be where Oklahoma could pull off the improbable. So, this is a really tough one. So, to me, I mean, I hate to do it, but I gotta go with Alabama. I think they're gonna pull it off. I'm gonna say 34-24. Alabama beats Oklahoma. So, and you know what I gotta say, Florio? Now that I just said it, it's gonna be Oklahoma as the next victim. Florio, it's yours.
Returning national champion Alabama is in the playoff for the fifth consecutive season. The Crimson Tide ranked second in the FBS in scoring offense, 47.9, and fourth in scoring defense, 14.8. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa helped transform the offense into the best version yet under coach Nick Saban. Oklahoma had a record-setting quarterback too, in Kyrie. The Sooners led the FBS in scoring offense with 49.5 points a game. Oklahoma, however, ranked number 96 scoring defense at 32.4. Their coach, Lincoln Riley, doesn't apologize for that style either. If the Sooners win, then it's going to be a shootout. 3 keys to the game. Key number 1, Kyler versus Tua. Quarterback matchup is one for the ages, and everybody knows the stats about Tagovailoa in the fourth quarter. That's why the first half will be so important. Murray, however, has been lights out in the first half of the season with a 215.2 passer rating, 25 touchdowns, and just 3 interceptions. Tagovailoa, meanwhile, has a 207.3 passer rating with 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the first half. The first half of this game might put social media servers on notice. If the Sooners survive that initial rush, the second half will be legendary. Key number 2, turnovers. In a game with these kind of offenses, 2 turnovers can be fatal. Oklahoma had a -2 turnover ratio this season, and that won't cut it against the Crimson Tide. Alabama was +8 and committed an average of 1 turnover a game. Third and final key, red zone TDs. Alabama has the third best red zone defense in the nation. Opponents have scored just 17 touchdowns and 30 red zone visits. Oklahoma, meanwhile, ranked number 13 in red zone offense and scored 42 touchdowns and 63 visits. Alabama scored 48 touchdowns and 68 red zone visits. Both teams have to cash in every time here. The stat that matters, yards per play. Oklahoma leads the FBS with 8.8 yards a play. Alabama ranks 7th with 7.9 yards a play. Both teams can move the ball at will, and a few punts could swing momentum. That means the defenses have to force a few third and longs and get off the field. The Crimson Tide allow 4.5 yards a play, and the Sooners allow 6 yards a play. Oklahoma is fine with those numbers. We'll see if that bothers the Alabama defense. The Sooners' lowest average yards per play in a game this season was 6.9. The highest total Alabama allowed this season was 5.7. Pay attention where those numbers are throughout the game. It will say a lot about who is controlling the tempo. Prediction? I love the stage. We love the stage, especially with the Heisman backdrop between Murray and Tagovailoa. The Sooners won the last meeting 45-31 in the 2014 Sugar Bowl. That is the game that has stuck with Alabama fans ever since. The first half will be wildly entertaining. The Sooners have to avoid the early knockout punch. Alabama, however, will make the right adjustments and take control in the second half. Tagovailoa and Murray will both put up big numbers, but it's Alabama that advances to its 4th college football playoff championship game. Nothing more for me to say on this. Alabama wins the Orange Bowl, defeats Oklahoma 44-34, and setting up a third showdown in the last 4 years with the Clemson Tigers. Best for business, status quo will win out, I'm afraid. So nothing more to say. Next victim, indeed, for Alabama, but by golly, it will not be easy. So, MF, can the Heisman Trophy winner, Kyler Murray, can he do the impossible? or will it be next victim once again?
Oh man, I think it's going to be next victim. I think Alabama's going to win the game. Look, they were on the ropes against Georgia. They some way somehow got out of that one unscathed, and they won. And that was their biggest test yet. But don't sleep on Oklahoma, man. Oklahoma's definitely want to make one thing for sure. They're going to make a big run here. They're going to want to win and go to the national title game. And I just feel like at the end of the day, this team is good. They're not. It's a really great matchup, no doubt about it. But once it's all said and done, I truly believe that Alabama's just too strong. Even though I think Kyler Murray is going to have an amazing game and he's really going to force the issue, I just don't think they have enough weapons to hang on with them. I think it's going to be a great battle, high-scoring affair, like you said, Anthony. But at the end of the day, I just think Alabama is just too strong, too powerful, and you had it as a 10-point margin. I think it's going to be a little more bigger than that. My final score is actually 45-31. Alabama winning and advancing to the national championship game. So I also got Alabama and Clemson for the championship. We'll get into that next week. Whoever gets out, we'll find out. You'll get our prediction next week during Wild Card Weekend of the National Football League. So, Anthony, it's all yours to wrap it up for tonight.
And I forgot to mention, of course, for all of you who may not know, the Orange Bowl, of course, at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida. So I wanted to get that out of the way. So that puts the bow on this very special edition of College Football Tuesday, our New Year's Six bowl game preview. We are so grateful and thankful for you all for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will next see you tomorrow night at our traditional 10:30 time slot for Week 17, Strictly Sports NFL Friday. I mean, so many games with playoff implications. We'll dive in a little deeper on those. We'll get those non-state games out of the way as best as I can, as best as we can. Of course, I'll still have my traditional notes like I always do. So that's all, and that's tomorrow night. So and then that's it. I mean, we're gonna be off for Ridiculously Raw and Cerebral Smack Talk. We'll be off once again because of New Year's, and then we'll be off for a week after tomorrow. So that's it. So until tomorrow night, Week 17 of NFL Friday, it's Anthony Floyo here for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, good old MF Michael Fletcher, Didi Woodson, and Derek Ferreira, DF from RI 401. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up, Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Friday. And until Week 17 of NFL Friday tomorrow night, you've been watching this very special edition of Strictly Sports College Football Thursday, our New Year's 6 bowl game preview special right here on the Zone 25 on YouTube.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one. For now, Floyo, so long. And bye, everybody. Bye.